Welcome to The Inside. This is the week that the movie industry came to Las Vegas for CinemaCon. And after 2 years of COVID craziness, A-list directors and stars are here to meet face-to-face with cinema teams and studio leaders. They'll see movie clips and hear from actors and creative teams and leave here with the industry's game plan for blowing away fans in cinemas all over the world this year. I am Jim Chabin, and with me is our co-host for this series, Wim Byens. He serves as CEO of Cinionic, and we are both here live at the Cinionic World Laser Theater at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. Please welcome Wim Byens. Wim, you've come all the way from Brussels and Barco headquarters and Cinionic headquarters to be here. What's the mood been of your customers and all the theater owners coming in for this important CinemaCon?
You know, first of all, it's great to be back face to face, right?
Yeah.
I think that it's fantastic to see how many people have been, subscribing to coming up. But the thing which really excites us is the fact that we really get people having a very positive mood about the industry is back. People going back to the theaters is what we hear. And that also means, and that's not unimportant for us, of course, that people want to discuss about, hey, how can we elevate my movie-going experience? How can I do my next kind of, investment? So what is the next thing to do on technology side, which is, of course, our field. And I think that's a different mode than if I would take, last year or the year before,
We heard a speaker yesterday afternoon in one of your seminars here at CinemaCon, and he was a behavioral psychologist at Northwestern University. What he said was a habit is formed over a 6-week period. So if you're in the habit of going to movies, that's a habit that you develop. If you stop that habit and you're stuck at home watching streaming services, over 6 weeks, you form a new mental pattern that is only broken if something comes back to you in front of you and gets you out of that pattern into a new habit. And he said you need one great experience, and then you're going to need 2, 3, 4 experiences. But by that 5th experience in this new habit, you will be back into a pattern. And I feel as if the directors and NATO and people like you are here to help get consumers back into that habit.
No, you're 100% right? I think that last year, Spider-Man did fantastic, right? It was pre-COVID numbers at the time. And I think also beginning of this year, we have a fantastic slate already. And we're going to talk about it later, of course. But I think that we should not underestimate what it takes to get the moviegoer back. So we're going to have, as an industry, fight very hard, right, to get them back, get their attention, and don't take it for granted that they were there with us before COVID, right? Because we still have part of the audiences which is not joined us back, and we need to do whatever it takes to get them back. And as soon as we get them back, because that was the other thing what he said, which I really liked, on a height when the emotion is high, then you have to get them to referral, right? Then you have to get them to the next experience and the next experience. And so I think we still have a way to go as an industry, but I think with the slate which is coming this year, we're on our way here, right?
Well, I think if we think in terms of the kinds of people that can make people come back to that theater, get that habit started again, people at Marvel, people like Brad Pitt and his new movie, Bullet Train, people like James Cameron with the next Avatar, Jurassic World, the next Black Panther, Harry Styles, who blew everybody away at Coachella. His new movie is coming out from Warner Brothers this year. We saw a documentary based on the life of David Bowie, a concert movie this morning presented by Neon. So I think we've got all the powers behind it, and that's why I think we've got perfect guests today. Our insiders are at the very heart of the business. They are really the heart of our business. David Leach is the director of one of this summer's most anticipated films, Bullet Train, starring Brad Pitt from Sony Pictures. He's directed or produced a string of action-adventure hits, including John Wick, Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, and the Fast and Furious franchise hit, Hobbs and Shaw. In his earlier career, he actually served as stunt double for Brad Pitt and for Jean-Claude Van Damme. Please welcome David Leach. David, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And here from the National Association of Theater Owners is Jackie Brenneman. She serves as Executive Vice President for NATO and also serves as General Counsel. She began her career in fine dining in Napa, California. Today, her favorite movie meal is popcorn with a side of mustard at her local Cineplex. Please welcome Jackie Brenneman. Welcome, guys. We're thrilled you're here.
So, Jackie, let me start with you, if I may, right? So, first of all, congrats for a fantastic show, getting CinemaCon on the road, right? Fantastic, and what an audience, by the way, but also what a show it's been, right? And it's great to be back in person, right? Because we're underestimating the impact of being back in person and how we need it as an industry. If we look at the show, what are the key themes for you? What are we trying to get across at the show this year?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to be on this podcast, and I'm just excited to be around all of you and with you here today. I think we can all feel the energy in the air at this CinemaCon. We are incredibly optimistic. We are excited. We feel like we are moving to the future now. We are back and we are ready to go. There's a lot of great movies coming up. I'm thrilled at the slate. And thank you for mentioning such a diverse slate of titles because, we do love tentpoles, but we also love all kinds of different movies for different people.
I want to tell the people listening outside of CinemaCon that last night Sony did its big presentation and took over the Coliseum for a fantastic presentation of what they thought their strongest films were of the year. And there were many, many, many. But the first person to walk out on stage and the first clip to be shown was that of David's. David, you and Bullet Train were front and center last night to open CinemaCon. And I will tell you that I was in the elevator going back to my room afterwards, and there were some other people there. And I said, "Did you go to the screening?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Where are you from?" She said, "Plano, Texas." I said, what did you see that you liked?" And she said, "Bullet Train." And I said, "Why Bullet Train?" And she said, "Because I'm a Quentin Tarantino fan, and it's been a long time since I saw a film that unlocked something in me that made me excited and completely took me out of my world." So that's pretty tall. That's pretty tall praise, right?
Damn.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Texas.
Yeah, exactly. You've been a feature film director for Dwayne Johnson, Keanu Reeves, Charlize Theron, Brad Pitt, and many others. What does the big screen experience provide you and your actors and your stories that other things don't?
Well, I mean, it provides a lot of things. I mean, number one, as an artist, when you create something, you want people's attention. And especially a commercial film, you want people to be engaged. And the film experience is just that. It's an experience. They take the time to go. They spend their hard-earned money. They go to a place with a lot of people, and they have this really unique communal experience that we've been having for centuries, whether it was theater and now cinema. And that's what you want. You want that biggest platform. And the stars that I've been fortunate to work with, they deserve that platform, and they actually bring an audience to that platform. And it's really the only way we want to make movies, and it's really the only way I want my art shown. I mean, it's the most ideal way for it.
So over the last couple of years, David, so we've seen a lot of experimentation happening with the cinema presentation, right? In dining, multiple screens, all kind of different formats there. So as a filmmaker, what excites you, and what do you think is important there?
I think all of those are interesting as long as it's bringing people together. I think that it's bringing them together in this sort of common attention. Because, I think what happens when we watch things at home, you're not fully invested in what the artist's message is or in the full creativity of the project. And so if it's a dining experience or if it's a multiple screen experience, I think all of those are valid in terms of like keeping this communal experience alive for the theater goer and for the artists who are exhibiting in it.
So Jackie, as leader of NATO there, what are the conversations around the windowing, right? And is there some consensus in the industry about that at the moment? Or?
Well, I am certainly not going to speak about individual conversations between individual exhibitors and distributors, but I will say that they're having conversations. And look, I mean, I think we had pre-pandemic models, we had the pandemic models, and now we are moving past that. And what that looks like, we're not sure, but we heard David Zaslav say that they've looked at the data. He had a year to study the business and, in his acquisition of Warner Brothers. And he looked at the data and he said, the data is clear. If we give a movie a real window, we put real marketing behind it, it is more valuable during its entire life cycle. So there is not a business proposition from his perspective to just dropping windows and just shoving a bunch of things onto streaming without that kind of release. That's what his data shows, right? He said that publicly in an earnings call. So that's a message we like to hear. I am also heartened to hear that data is driving decision making. And I do think that maybe that's a benefit from the pandemic, is that we were able to get a lot of information as an industry. And even when audiences really didn't have an opportunity to be back, or they were afraid to come back, and they had the opportunity to watch things at home, as soon as they were allowed to go see something in a theater with other human beings and feel things with other human beings, they came back in droves. I mean, to have record-breaking numbers during Omicron is a testament to the sign that movie theaters aren't just about movies as content. They are about movies as experiences, and that is eternal.
Do you get the sense that the customer, the fan base, we've all moved on. We're not wearing masks. If you feel that it's important for your underlying conditions, people do. Everybody supports that. But is it a sense that the sense of fear on the part of the public going back to the movies, that a lot of the concerns have evaporated and people are back at their cineplexes?
So we have, I mean, kind of as an industry, we've been tracking consumer sentiment all the way throughout the pandemic. And the numbers have never been higher across all demographics, right? And so I do think that many of the sticking points, many of the issues on consumers that were less likely to come were also the consumers that were being told not to come, right? They were being told there aren't movies for you. And that's a confusing message. When there aren't family titles, it tells parents, well, maybe it's not safe for me to bring my children. So as soon as a studio says, we're going to give you a family title, you know, Sonic overperformed. It beat its predecessor, right? That is not what you normally see. It did incredible business, and it made families now see more ads for more movies and got kids excited. As a small side, I have, you know, I'm a parent. I have 2 children. My son is 4, and LA was closed almost the whole pandemic, right? We were closed for a very long time, and the very first time you could go back and see a movie, we took him, and I told him, oh, you're going to go see a movie in a movie theater. And he said, what's a movie theater? Because he had a year and a half.
How old is he?
He's 4 now, but so he was, 2 when the pandemic started. So he didn't have any movie theater memories. And I will tell you that he can tell you every single movie he's seen in a movie theater. Watching him go from not knowing what a movie theater was to being so obsessed, and now he cries because his hair is not blue like Sonic. It makes such a difference, right? That experience, I'm not lobbying him, I'm watching, and it's obvious. So once we have movies for audiences, they're coming. Older women, which means over 35, I'm offended. They're coming back. They came back for Dog. Then they saw ads for Lost City. They came back for Lost City. They're going to keep coming.
David, when someone thinks of a David Leach movie, I think there's an expectation, a good one, a promise, come along and we're going to have a good time, right?
Yeah.
When you sit down with your actors, and you've worked with this generation's finest and most beloved actors, when you're first sitting down with them, do you make a promise to them, directly or indirectly, about come be a part of this idea I've got, this script? What are you asking them, and what are you telling them that you're going to deliver for them as an actor in your film?
Thank you for saying that. I mean, I do strive to make them highly entertaining, and as some would say, and my producing partner Kelly would say, they're atonal at times in a good way. Like there's drama, there's comedy, there's stakes in the action, and all of these things, and it's a roller coaster event that a lot of films can't handle 1 or 2 of those together, and I try to put all of them in every movie, right? But when we approach the actors in the beginning, we're always like, we're collaborators. There's a way that I direct, and the way that we produce is that you need someone that comes in to take care of that character and discover the things that you're not thinking of yet. So when you work with such great talents like Brad Pitt and Keanu Reeves and the Charlize Therons, you're like, you're wanting them to bring their ideas, and you're wanting to put them into the computer of this big cinematic experience, and then you're pushing them out the other end in hopefully the most compelling way possible. And I would say we do that with all the artists that we work with. I come from stunts, and so the stunt department is very integral in all the decisions I'm making, drama wise, comedy wise. You saw the stuff from Bullet Train the other night. They're in charge of a lot of different things. They're in charge of like getting Brad's character from A to B in a fight scene. So it's not only the collaboration with these great, thespians, it's a great crew of artisans that make a movie. And it's not, I'm just up here talking to you, but without that army of people and a great producer, and I wouldn't be making David Leach movies.
So you were coming up the ropes as Brad Pitt's stunt double, and now you're directing him.
Yeah.
Does he ever look at you in the face and say, "What are you doing here?" Or
or recounting, foolish stories of
right?
I'm sure there were many times he's like, "How did he make it here?" He used to fall out of cars.
How is what can you tell us about Brad Pitt that would inform our affection for him, because we love him through it all? What is it? You've been at his side for years, and this is just a total fan question.
It's just more of a generally an incredible human being, and a great professional. When I was a stunt double, and he was an actor at that time, and I won't name the movies, but he was a professional then, and he was at the first one there, always giving to the movie 110%, and nothing's changed in his career, and I think that's why he is where he is. A lot of these stars that I've been fortunate to work with, they're the same. They're giving 110%, and as glamorous as their life is, they work really, really hard, and his work ethic is off the charts, and there's a reason why he's Brad Pitt.
Jackie, it seems that inflation is in the news. Press release last week showed that UK streaming subscribers are cutting back on their services, in many cases down to just 2 or 3 must-have streamers, probably in a reaction to increased consumer costs. Netflix showed a loss last week of subscribers for the first time in 10 years. What do you think is happening economically right now?
Well, I will say, I think, we're in a separate business than streaming, right? And I think comparing the two has been a strange problem that has, created a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? There's what you do at home and there's what you do in the theater. And oddly, one of the things that we've been finding coming out of the pandemic is consumers are more likely to be spending more at the theater, right? They're going to the bigger formats, they're spending more on concessions, they're valuing it even more. So, I think it's very important. I think Wall Street's starting to say that some of these at-home options need to show that they are a business that's based on profit and loss, and that's going to happen. But our industry is well established. We've already shown that we can be profitable, and we've shown that when we are challenged, I can't even tell you the number of theater owners that went through the worst time of their lives, and they did not quit. They came back. They are fighting. They are ready to go, and they interact with their community. They know those people better than anyone else, and that is a value that I think movie theaters have always kind of been recession-proof, inflation-proof, and I think we're going to show that as well.
So, David, when you releases your films, what kind of technical innovation are you looking forward to? What's important for you in building a movie?
In terms of production, there's always innovations in sort of the camera equipment we're using, and sort of the stunt and special effects equipment we're using for the big action sequences, the visual effects. On Bullet Train, we used some virtual production elements that were really, really interesting and compelling that really streamlined our post. But in terms of like the exhibition, I think it's like getting to the audience to see it in the highest quality and the best quality they can see it in all the locations around the world, and like keep stepping that up. I think filmmakers like myself, you're color correcting this movie and you see it one way and you want it to be that way, and you want to really present your art in this final image. And when we can have sort of the strongest projectors and the strongest imagery in theaters, it just gives you comfort that people are seeing what you've created the way you want to see it. And that's, I think that's where we want theaters to go. At least that's what I'm hoping for, more technology in that.
There was recently, of course, last week, the press release of AMC, right? Making a big, commitment, I would say, of upgrading, replacing 3,000 of their 500 projectors domestically. So how do you look at that? Is that something you're saying, yes, now we, there's going to be more moviegoers going to come because, there's investment in the presentation, experience? Or how do you see
well,
that?
I hope so. I think that anytime, like we were talking earlier, you upgrade the experience, people are going to want to go, right? And, the high resolution that you can watch things at home, it's always going to be, it's kind of apples to oranges anyway, right? I think the strong part of the cinematic experience is what we've all been talking about. It's the communal and it's an experience. But I think the technical advances are only going to help. And I think we should be striving for that.
Wim, you announced, or Adam Aaron at AMC announced, you are equipping how many of his theaters?
Well, 3,500, right?
With brand new series laser projectors. And I think it's fascinating because here we are talking about you have that chance to make the first impression. You get people back. I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once the other day. Crowd loved it. I can't imagine seeing that movie on a smaller screen with the sound and the size of the screen. Are the cinema owners upscaling into these projection and sound systems to make sure that we give movie fans something they just will be blown away by?
Yeah, I think that, and we see this even more, right? If I take CinemaCon this year, and again, CinemaCon is not done yet, right? We're only half there, but when I listen to conversations we're having, people realize more and more that it's about the experience, by the way. And the experience is everything, right? It's when you get into the parking lot, when you get into the lobby, when you get into your seat, but of course then it's the experience, right? The sound and the visuals. And so they realize that if they want to get people out of the home, and I like what you said, Jackie, it's a different experience, and maybe two categories where maybe the production of content goes to streaming or goes to the theater, but it's fundamentally two different experiences. One is an out of home enjoyment, and the other one is on the couch at home, right? And they're just different. But people realize if you want to get people out of the couch, you're going to have to do something special. And I think what the latest, blockbusters, but also the box office, which is rising and, still a way to go, of course, is helping exhibitors to see room for investments. And I think the decision of AMC to, announce, hey, we're going to, make a big step and 3,500 screens going to be upgraded to laser technology is about their commitment to that. And they're doing that because they see a business reason in that. They believe they're going to get more people to the theater of that, and they need to invest in that experience. So, we have that conversation with multiple exhibitors. So everybody has it on top of mind. What does it take for me? We got Avatar coming up. We got other movies coming up. How can I take the most advantage of that in the sense of attracting people to the theater and really show this stunning, how it was intended movie on the screen? And I think that's much more on the agenda today than a year ago. Yeah.
David, we saw the first 15 minutes probably of Bullet Train last night. Tell our audience that wasn't there to see it. Tell us a little bit about Bullet Train.
Bullet Train is an sort of action thriller with a highly comedic edge, and it's about a group of eccentric assassins that all arrive on a bullet train in Tokyo with competing agendas, but they're all sort of linked, and they soon find out that they ultimately all find out that you can't control your fate and that somehow we're all connected. It's a broad, big, colorful movie with incredible actors like Brad Pitt and Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry and Joey King and Hiroyuki Sanada and Andrew Koji and Michael Shannon and Bad Bunny. It's so many great people that we got to come out and play. And there's some incredible action and fight scenes, and just going back to the reason to why we want to make things for the cinema. Action just plays better on the big screen. You want to see the things come at you. You want to see them fly past you. You can watch it at home, and it will never feel the same as it when you have a big, Hollywood blockbuster action movie on the big screen. And so there's some of that in Bullet Train as well.
Jackie, as the amazing content slate which is ahead of us this year, right? And the moviegoers going back to the theater, we see that in the box office numbers here. What are your members asking for, to capitalize on people returning back to cinemas?
So I'm going to use this as a segue into the Cinema Foundation. So as we're coming out of the, out of the pandemic, there really is all of a sudden a renewed optimism and desire to innovate and collaborate. It was very clear that we are an industry that is not exhibition, right? There's just so many people, just as you said, it takes so many people to make one of your movies. All of those people are part of the theatrical experience too. We need all of you. We need all of you that are making incredible investments in the technology that you're bringing to our members. But what we really want to know is, who are our guests? How do we get them back? And how do we, as we're bringing them back, make sure that they're having an amazing experience, and bring in new employees and make them understand that they're connected to something really special. So we decided, kind of with all of those thoughts in mind, to develop a Cinema Foundation. And the Cinema Foundation is not just exhibition. It is everyone that is part of the ecosystem is going to have a seat at the table. And we are trying to do quite a lot of things. We're making investments on cinema careers, education, and diversity. We're working on really partnering with the creative community and doing an industry promotion. We're also developing 2 think tanks, one on innovation. And innovation, you think of all of the different ways that we can understand who we are and why we're special, right? Is it the technology that brings people to the theaters? Is it the seating? Is it some of both? Is it the food? Is it the way we communicate with our customers? Really learning about our business and how to know it better and expand it better. And then at the same time, working with all of the technology companies, filmmakers and exhibitors and distributors and other content providers, and getting in a room together and understanding, how do we make the technology of the future match all of those innovations. And then throughout all of that, backing it up with real data and research. So bringing numbers to the table, speaking with numbers and studies, and then also, of course, a charitable arm of that as well. So we're figuring it out. Our members want to know how they can help.
David, we have heard from people that kind of surprised us, but senior studio leadership or filmmakers who actually slip into movie theaters to watch their own films in front of an audience on a weekend. Do you ever do that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, when the movie's released, I think it's fun to just, again, that's why you make it, right? It's for this communal experience, and you want to make sure that it's working, and there is sort of the charge as an artist to really feel the emotional, visceral response from the audience. And that's what, especially with comedy and action, it's pretty empirical. People will ooh and ah at the action, and they'll laugh at the comedy, and maybe it's like a stand-up comedian who wants to hear if their jokes are working or whatever, but you want to feel their energy. And so, yeah, I think it's good. I definitely sneak in and see it once.
So David, on the Bullet Train, right? It was based on a Japanese book from 2010, right? Which really being about the wider reach and source material, right? Do you see any trend how you reach out to those other creative sources for those materials?
Well, I mean, I think that the world has obviously shrunk in that respect, in terms of like the way that people are consuming all of, anime or animation or novels, and things can go international very quickly, and we can find material from all over the world, and then make it our own within this space of like, the action thriller space, or take it from one country where it was really popular and make it global, like we did with Bullet Train. So, yeah, I think it's like the world has kind of gotten smaller, and then we go to all cultures and all ends of the world to find great material and great stories, and try and find ways to tell them and reach more people.
Can I just throw in something here too? I think that this is such a positive development, because what we see is our audiences are really diverse. And for so long, the greenlighting decisions seem to be based, and I'm sure they still are, on, a series of comps, right? And I feel like the comps can end up being limiting, right? Because you think that you therefore need to keep like 4 white guys in a movie, and then you think you know who your audience is because you're creating things for one specific audience. And as studios started to diversify who they put on camera, the audiences responded an insane amount, right? And so I think that there's now more trust in going to outside source material and feeling like we can be more flexible in what we're comping to. Like we can comp much more to theme than to the race of someone in a movie or the country of origin, and feel more confident that audiences these days aren't so limited and they're not
100%.
so boxed in when they're thinking.
Yeah, and I think if you look at some of the casting choices, especially in Bullet Train, quickly, like you saw a really beautiful palette of people in the first 10 minutes of that movie. And that's just something that we take to heart as filmmakers, and sort of like to show the world that way.
There are mergers and acquisitions going on in Hollywood with Discovery and Warner Brothers and Amazon buying MGM. Question for you, Jackie and Wimp. Do you see more mergers and acquisitions as far as the theater owners? Are we going to see fewer owners, or do you think that we've made it through this tough time and you don't see a lot of activity on that front?
Well, I mean, I don't see the kind of mergers and acquisitions that are based on everyone lost out in the pandemic and they're desperate. I certainly would assume that things will change as they have the entire history of this industry. So it would be naive for me to think that there won't be any changes. New companies coming in. I mean, I'm very heartened to see, new young companies that started in the pandemic, people who felt like this is a sector I want to be involved in more than ever. So I think we're going to get new entrants, and maybe they'll get big and they'll buy up some of their competitors, but we're not seeing any kind of panic-based mergers and acquisitions. It's all exciting. And
what I see is it's much more numbers-based these days, right? I think people doing acquisitions, they are definitely, especially some of the mid-tiers, which saying, hey, we want to, get bigger, right? And want to get more scale. But I think they're selective, right? They really do their homework well, and they make sure that they know what they're buying. And I think that's probably pandemic has learned it, right? So you need to keep on being, running your company and being an entrepreneur, but at the same token, you want to make sure that you got your numbers in place. So,
yeah, and I do think that some of the new news, like especially things like what David Zaslav said, I think a lot of that will also help lenders feel more comfortable being in this space, and investors feel more comfortable being in this space. So I do think that kind of optimism will probably fuel some changes too.
David, Bill Gerber, who was producing the new David Bowie biopic, basically said, no one makes a movie hoping someday it'll be shown on an iPhone. When you go out to a movie, what's your format of choice? What do you like? Do you like the large formats? Do you like what kind of a movie theater experience do you like?
I mean, I do really love the large formats, but again, I think it's more of the experience with the people, and I think it can be all of them are work, because I think, you were saying that there's a lot more interest in the large formats right now. People are going to the sort of higher tech sort of venues. But for me, again, it's like there's something really great about the local theater in Middle America that is still trying to upgrade their system, but has a great fan base and an audience that is being serviced by local theater owners who love their constituents. So
so much
customers.
Of that could also be because the movies that were coming out were being geared toward an audience that was younger men who are the more confident ones to come out, and so they were these bigger movies, and so that could be, that it could be that too. So I don't know about the tickets for Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's not really playing in a lot of PLFs. So,
right.
It is.
Say like the large format for me, obviously, like I said before, as a filmmaker, that's how you want to see it. That's how I want people to see Bullet Train, for sure.
Want to add to that, right? So I think we need all those screens, right? To that point. So I think that every screen needs to be great kind of thing, but we need a lot of screens, because I think the communal thing, we want people to go to the theater, not just to a few theaters, but to go to a larger extent, right? So to your point, I think it's very important we keep as a broader industry, get everybody up to that, and those experiences needs to be good. And of course, you got the special experiences, great, but you want to make sure that we keep that broad base. I think that's.
David, name a movie in the last year that you just loved. Just.
Oh my God! Now you put me on the spot, and I'm gonna
name two.
Who are you gonna piss off?
Jackie.
Oh, I can name a million. Well, I saw Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I'm a huge Nick Cage fan, so I
And?
was like,
Good?
that movie was made for me.
Good?
Loved it.
Okay.
Lost City also. That was a Jackie
Okay.
movie.
Okay. Wim.
Well, the last one I saw was Fantastic Beasts, right? Stunning, yeah.
All right. I would say Dune. Dune struck me as a movie that I thought I was going to another world. And I was in a movie theater and I thought I wouldn't get this at home, right? So thank you, Jackie. Thank you, David. We close with a comment made by Viola Davis last night on stage at the Coliseum. When she came out to talk about her new film, Woman King, she got a standing ovation, which is relatively rarely given at CinemaCon. It was given to her. And she said, "There are 5 words I do not wish to take to the grave. I was not brave enough." Thank you, David Leach. Thank you, Jackie Brenneman. Thank you, Wim. And thank you, CinemaCon.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.